paleo.info, you will get to Elaine's original website. Anyway, I do think that dairy is potentially problematic for people with inflammatory bowel disease, even irritable bowel. So I usually ask people to omit dairy for at least a 3-week period. You need that 3-week period. I see people having chest pain. It's okay. You can make it. You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. You can. Try Trainer's Bob back. Okay, there we go. I do ask people to eliminate dairy for at least 3 weeks or so, because you need that amount of time to know whether you have some type of sensitivity. I hazard against the word allergy. If you look in a medical textbook, allergy has a very, very, very specific diagnosis. There's a specific reaction. Most food sensitivities are not allergies. If you eat, strawberries and you sort of blow up and look like the Michelin Man or something, that's an allergy. You're all red with hives, that's an allergy. If your gut doesn't like it, or you feel sick, you feel tired, you get sweaty, those are not allergies. Those are more in the lines of sensitivities. It does take a couple weeks to flush that out. And again, Lori alluded to that there's 2 reasons why she felt so crummy those first. It's first of all because most of us are sugar dependent. We're really not designed for sugar as a primary fuel. We're designed as fat as our primary fuel. But because our diets are so carbohydrate laden, we have shifted our metabolism to more of that of sugar than the fat. So those first 2 weeks, you're going through that transition, and your body is revving up and you will become more fat, a better fat burner. And that's why people will tend to lose weight. And that's where we're going to get into fasting, and it's really one of my favorite topics, because there's a lot of information about fasting, but you can't really fast effectively until you become a better fat burner. So this is kind of a first step, because otherwise you'll be sweating and miserable and looking to maul somebody walking down the hall with a candy bar or something. Give me that! So this is really a first step. The other reason why she probably felt bad is because there is a detoxification of when you start removing foods that you are sensitive or problematic with. You will have that feeling. So dairy is a number one big difference. Elaine also allows for certain beans, legumes. And remember, peanuts are not nuts; they're legumes. As on your I don't know why they call them peanuts. They are legumes. They're more related to lentils and beans than they are to almonds or cashews. So, and I think peanuts are allowable on SCD, but paleo, all legumes are jettisoned. I'm trying to, I think those are some of the major things. I think also Elaine's a little free and fast with the omega-6 to omega-3 ratios, and she's also a little free and fast into total carbohydrate content. There's a line in our book that we wrote, something that's not just about quality, it's also about carbohydrate quantity, because as we talked about before, too many carbohydrates elevates
blood sugar.
Which elevates
Insulin.
Thank you. We're learning. They're trainable. They are trainable. So it's not just about carbohydrate quality. It's also about quantity. Because if you can do paleo one way and just be eating fruit all day, you're not going to reap the benefits, because there's too much sugar. Too much sugar. And if you read the paleo diehards, like Dr. Cordain and Dr. Ed and Rob Wolf, who are some of my buds and heroes, that they really what paleo, the core of paleo is really meats. And when I say meats, again, poultry, fish, anything like that, seafood, and vegetables. That really becomes the paleo core. Now, again, that's a good place to start. And as you feel better, if you want to start incorporating some other foods, because you said this is too difficult, but I know the diet is helping and you want to ease up restrictions, then you can experiment. There will be people who will find that even the slightest deviation and they go down the tubes. Other people will find, as a couple of the ladies here, that they can deviate, they don't need to be as strict, and they can still keep their disease in check. So again, there is a spectrum. So you got to be afraid when you ask me a question, because you get you get a voluminous answer.
So on the subject though of the yogurt, or sorry, the dairy, so one of the things they advocate under SED is making yogurt.
Yes, I know the 36-hour yogurt or the 3 day. Yeah.
So is that still potentially problematic?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Why is that?
Because of the proteins, you don't get rid of the proteins in the milk, and if you're sensitive to whey and casein, it doesn't matter what you do with it. And she advocates that because that's a good source for probiotic.
Yeah.
But you can get probiotics from many different sources. Obviously, a pill form. There is a company out of San Diego called Rejuvenative Foods. They're like dealing. I mean, they're hippies from the '60s. I mean, they make some great products, but dealing. Oh wow, okay, yeah, we'll get that out to you. 6 months later, oh yeah, Dr. Brasco, you made that order, okay. But they have fermented vegetables, which are delicious, and I think you can. They're expensive. You can do this on your own, but they do sell them at Earth Fare. There's that section, like right if you're walking out of the vegetable aisle, if you make a hard left, there's that section. They do carry the rejuvenative food vegetables. So that's another way of getting probiotics if you want to, without just pills. But I mean, I have seen it where, clearly this is where experience and where clinical perspective, some people just can't do dairy. So like I said, you just get rid of it for 2 to 3 weeks, and if this is something important to you, reintroduce it. If your symptoms stay stable, then you can utilize that. If you start getting sick again, well, it's up to you. The other thing is, once you, because most people with gut problems have something called leaky gut, and that's another revved up, can talk an hour for. Sometimes if you go on a diet strictly and you come back to some of the foods, gotta have foods, let's say cheese and yogurt, you come back to it in 6 months, you may be able to tolerate it. And again, these numbers I'm throwing out there are kind of arbitrary. So you have to kind of test it out for yourself. But as your gut heals, your sensitivity to food will improve. And so you may be able to expand your diet beyond the basics. But again, it's not going to be measured in weeks. It's going to be measured more in months. So again, I think there are certain, but at their essence, paleo and SCD have more in common than they don't have in common. And
I was going to ask, is it because gluten's associated with a specific disease, the celiac disease, that you don't hear about grain, the other proteins in grains?
Yeah, I think that there's always something, wheat's become like kind of a whipping post, and like it's sort of like the trendy thing that I'm gluten sensitive, and this is gluten. And some of the gluten-free stuff that they have available, it's absolute junk. It's junk food. And they say, well, I eat gluten-free. And it's like, well, what are you eating? Well, I eat gluten-free cookies, I eat gluten-free bread, and I eat It's like, go back to the gluten, at least it tastes better. I mean, this stuff, it tastes like crap, and it's just as bad for you. So if you're going to eat something bad, it might as well taste good. But I think it's because of celiac disease. But most people who have gluten sensitivity do not have celiac. Celiac is a very specific condition. It is very common than you might think. I think it's as high as 350 have the genetics for celiac, and that's incredible when you think about how much wheat we have. But I do think that beyond celiac, most people have a lot of people, especially with GI disorder, have some type of wheat sensitivity, and most will benefit at the minimum by the reduction of wheat in the diet. But I think you're right on, is that gluten becomes fashionable because because of the fact that it's associated with celiac. Also, I'll get off on another tangent, is I think that there's this just general feeling that meat is unhealthy. And, you know, you got the vegetarian crew who also tend to be anti-gluten. So they're easy with the anti-gluten, but, you know, you touch rice and you touch other grains and they want to attack you. I'm not quite sure why vegetarianism is associated with health. I mean, again, you can compare these studies. It's apples and oranges. I don't think it's about what they're eating. It's what they're not eating. They're not eating the junk. They've lowered their sugar, but that doesn't mean that vegetarianism in itself is healthy. You think about, in a vegetarian diet, what is being missed. You're missing certain essential nutrients like B12. You're missing omega-3 fats, which cannot be obtained other than through meat products. Actually, meat is one of the most nutrient-dense foods you can consume. When you compare calories to nutrients, meat, seafood, and poultry, they're probably one of the most nutritious foods that you can possibly consume. Again, topic for another lecture is the quality of meat does matter. You know, and we're lucky here in Alabama that we have a lot of farmers. So if you want to make the effort, you can go to the farm and actually get farm-raised chickens, farm-raised beef, and the quality is inordinately higher, and your health will show the benefits. Now, and again, that's like nutrition. That's an upper level. That's junior year nutrition. It's not fresh. We're in freshman year nutrition right now, and so with freshman year nutrition, I would just stick to some of the basics. Question?
Oh, I didn't want to.
You were just scratching your head.
I did have a question, but I
No,
didn't
go
want to
ahead.
cut you before you were finished.
I may go on forever, so if you can shut me off, that's probably a good thing.
I've been diagnosed with IBS, but that's mostly because they couldn't find anything else to call it, so it was a kind of a default issue. The reason, the theory is I had a severe back injury with nerve damage, and the location of the injury, all of my problems were manifested through feelings in my legs, but that same area is where the nerves for the digestive system branch off. And so the working theory is, since I had nerve damage in my legs, there's also a good chance that there was nerve damage somewhere in my intestinal tract. And from what they've told me, that's very hard to prove. It's fairly invasive to go in and actually find where the nerve damage is, that it could be just one little spot that's damaged. So I guess my question is, do you think this diet will help me, since the inflammation is coming most likely from a different source than seems like the traditional IBS, IBD type
First
things?
question I have a bridge in Brooklyn. Would you be interested in investing in that bridge in Brooklyn? I guess not. I don't know. I think that's a bizarre, explanation. It's possible. But I think just why not start off with what's more common, is that you had IBS, and why do you have to throw the whole nerve, theory into it? I would challenge that. I think you would improve dramatically on the diet. Again, this is not a great forum for specific symptoms. There's certain things that would lead me one way or the other, but if it's involving your gut, I would challenge you to try the diet, and even if it didn't completely fix your symptoms, I think that you would feel, significantly better. And